Welcome to the Newtown Big Dreams podcast, an interview-style talk show that's your gateway to the fabulous and fascinating people who relocated to start a new life. Whether you're new to our podcast or your city, our fellow neighbors from across Canada, North America, and the entire English-speaking world share their stories of reaching new horizons and big dreams. So sit back and relax as we navigate in-depth and intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, executives, creatives, and anyone who can share their story about their Newtown big dreams. And now, here's your host, Luke J. Menkes.
So Candace, thanks so much for coming in on a Sunday. I'm super excited to talk about what you're doing for men. That's a really rare topic, and I've got a lot to say about it too. So I'm going to pick your brain, and I'm really excited about that topic. You're one of our rare guests, I think less than 10 out of 143 who was born and raised in Kelowna.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. So I always ask, what was it like growing up here? And tell us about some of the changes you've seen, good and bad.
I think they're almost all good. Yeah. I always used to say I should have worked for the chamber or some sort of ambassador for Kelowna. I love Kelowna. I only left a little bit to do some school. I left for a year and went to Vancouver for a little bit. And then came right back. I counted the days. I really did. I always laugh because I say I'm like the T-Rex of Kelowna, because I've actually had people say to me, no, you're not. Nobody's from Kelowna. And I'm like, no, I really am. Like, I've even sometimes thought about carrying my birth certificate. It's kind of funny.
Right. What part of town did you grow up in?
Well, I grew up in Rutland. Uh-huh. Yeah, went to Rutland Senior, and it was awesome.
Kind of, like, that was
way
kind of
out.
Separated. Right?
Way
now it's like
out.
one continuous city.
It was like people to come see us had to pack a lunch. Yeah, we were like, well, I was out by the airport, so I guess kind of considered like Ellison type of an area. But yeah, like we were way out of the town, so it was great. I loved it. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of changes, but I think they're all great. I am a huge proponent of change. I think change is needed. I know it's hard sometimes to see the city that you love grow, and Kelowna's grown exponentially since I've been here, or since I was born, which was way back. But I think it's done a good job. I think we've attracted incredible people. We've attracted incredible industries. I was actually thinking about the other day, I was driving down Enterprise and the old Western Star site. And I remember when that was closing down. And it was just this big
I'm trying to picture where that was.
So on, where Moxie's is, it was across from Moxie's. There still is they've sort of chopped it up a little bit. Yeah. But like the Restore is in there now, and there was a Crown Forest was in there a bit too. So yeah, that was our old Western Star, and that was our big industry, that and wood.
And
Tokel.
What did they do?
They built trucks.
Star. They built trucks?
Yeah, they built transport trucks. And everybody I knew in my world either worked for Tokel, which was at that time, so that's what my dad did. My dad worked for Riverside. Well, he worked for Crown Zellerbach, then it was Riverside, then it was, I don't know, there was about 5 changes for 53 years, I think. Yeah. Right down on the lake there still, which is now Tokel. So they either worked for the mill or they worked for Western Star, and that's just what they did. So when Western Star closed down, they moved the operations down south. Everybody thought Kelowna was going to become a ghost town. So I remember those conversations being had, and I was so worried. I believe it was in the 80s. I don't know exactly. I think I remember having that conversation, maybe it was about 16, 17-ish. So yeah, it would have been about mid-80s. And I was worried, I was like, well, no, not my town. But happily it didn't, because other than that, we were tourism.
Right. How about the agriculture business? Has it always been this big with the vineyards and the fruit orchards?
Definitely not the vineyards that I remember. Wine just wasn't the thing, unless it wasn't in our life. It certainly isn't mine now. But no, the orchards for sure. And that's what I grew up around, in orchards. That's all I played in. That's all our families had, was orchards. And So that was great. That was a really good life to grow up in. But yeah, no, I don't remember the vineyards being the same. And I don't remember the wineries. We had wineries, but not to the extent that we have now, or golf courses, to be honest, for that matter. Yeah. So our tourism was mostly consisted of, because we had a lake monster and cherries and apples. Right. You know, my uncle, I had an uncle here who was a big player in the apple and cherry industry, and he used to ship them all over the world, and that's what Kelowna was kind of known for. So not wineries then. That kind of evolved over the last 20 years or so. Yeah.
And the downtown is so beautiful. So
gorgeous.
I've been here for 7.5 years.
Okay.
I was vacationing here occasionally since 2008.
Yeah.
So about 11 years. And the downtown itself has really changed with Stewart Park and the ice rink and all the landscaping. It's just gorgeous.
It's stunning. Yeah. I really commend the council, what they've been able to do in these last few years. And I think I think that we've done a lot for our culture. I believe that Kelowna has really taken some forward movement. I have to say, probably one of the most negative things growing up is that Kelowna always seemed very beige to me. There wasn't a lot of culture. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of color to me. I always remember thinking, why is this city so flat? Even as a kid, but I love culture. I love everything culture. Even then. So I love seeing the changes like that. And I remember there being a distinct shift. I'd say again, probably around the 20 years ago, where there was a shift where now there was never anything going on, and now there's always an event happening, and there's always something, whether it's festivals or things like that. And it makes me so proud. I just love this. You can tell I love my city. I should. I would never run for council, but I should.
You should.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. I could be a good council.
No? Why not? You feel you're too blunt?
Yeah, I don't know. Politics has never really been my thing. I think that I think I have too soft a skin for it. I was disappointed in this last election, I'd have to say, with not the results. I was disappointed with the tactics. It made me really sad. And that I actually saw a bit of a shift. Yeah. And I didn't love it.
Moving to like mid-sized city now where it's a little more tribal, people getting a little nasty about that.
Yeah, and it surprised me. And I didn't enjoy it. I thought, well, when did we start slinging? We've never slung before. We've never had to resort to name calling and mudslinging. And we're evolved. Come on. Like we're intelligent people. We should be able to rely on our platforms. And if you don't agree with the platform, don't vote for the person. You don't have to make it about name calling or anything, or race or discrimination of any sort. And I was disappointed in that. I have to say. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
So tell us about HEchangedit. Where did the idea come from?
So HEchangedit is something that I've been working on for over a year. So prior to that, I worked for a charity, and it was great. I had kind of done a deep dive into a charity. Up until then, again, I really love Kelowna. I love volunteering, so I've volunteered in lots of different aspects. And so I worked for a mom and children's charity, and it was great. I learned incredible things. There's a lot of movement in women and children's charities. Yes. And that's great. It should be. But then I started to do a farther look into men's health services, men's mental health, all of the stuff that we've got another gender. I know there's more genders than that actually, but when you're looking at it, at coexisting, etc., why isn't there more going on for men? Right. And I wasn't quite sure what I did. There wasn't an answer to that. So I started to look around, and I started something called HEchangedit, and it was actually involved with media, doing some media work. And that media work was, again, I always look for the positive. I call myself a solution seeker. So, as human beings, we like to swing our pendulums really, really far when it comes to campaigns and things. So, we have our Me Too's and our hashtags, Time's Up, Occupy Wall Street, whatever it be. We love to sound the alarm, but you never really hear about all the good things that come afterwards, which there are a lot. We just don't report on them. Right. So I wanted to focus on that. Well, what if after Me Too, what happened? So I was doing some focus work in there in media, And then I realized that there's a lot of work there to be done on the he side, on the men's side.
Yeah.
So I started something called HEchangedit, but I took it into a different direction, which is actually putting together a digital platform for men's health. It's not a non-for-profit, it's a social impact company.
Okay.
And it's designed to put a platform out there for men, for a space for men to go, for men to start to peel back the layers, because the world is changing. Mm-hmm. You know, there is no denying that the undercurrent has shifted, mm-hmm. and that things are shifting a lot. And for some men, that's going to be a little hard to navigate, I think, because it's generations of belief systems that have been threaded.
Yes.
And they don't have necessarily mentors or people in their life that are there to help them. And so I think that they need to find people to help them to do that. Yeah. So I'm just creating that platform to help them to do that. And a lot of people say, well, why you? Why a woman to do that? Because I think it actually takes a woman to do that, because mm-hmm. women have lived in that undercurrent. We can help navigate that.
Yes.
Now, I'm not putting together the solutions. That's men to help men. Mm-hmm. I'm just putting the platform out there for them to do it.
That's very cool.
Thank you.
So I thought I had a podcast from 2006 to 2009
mm-hmm.
that focused on men, and men's relationships and dating and things like that.
Awesome.
And it was really great.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have given it up because it'd be huge by now.
Yeah, it's very popular.
I had 3,000 unique downloads every show.
Wow.
And I gave it up to run a nightclub, which was like the dumbest thing I've ever done. But it's a learning experience.
We learned.
But my biggest thing when it comes to what you're talking about mm-hmm. was there's a ton of emphasis on women, which is fine, like you said. But there's a lot of men's issues that aren't covered adequately. And the other thing was, for me, was there's real lack of good male role models for boys and for young men and even for older men.
Yes.
So when you think of male role models, we have athletes. A lot of people, a lot of strong men mm-hmm. are portrayed as criminals mm-hmm. in popular culture, mm-hmm. right? Or they're portrayed as very, very soft. Mm-hmm. And I think it creates a lot of confusion mm-hmm. in men.
It does.
Because, how am I supposed to act as a teenage boy, right?
Absolutely.
So what aspects of men's issues did you hone in on? Did you see a need mm-hmm. to advocate for?
That's a great question. So we want to take a really holistic approach to all of the aspects, although that being a very broad statement. Mm. So right now, buzzwords like mental health are very large, mm-hmm. and in men's mental health are actually very large. But we're saying there's so many aspects. There's mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. Plus there's then the spin-offs of those. There's addiction, there's stresses, there's unfair litigation. There's a lot of different things. So it is to speak to what you're saying, there's so many subjects that can be covered. Mm-hmm. The problem that we had run up against, I don't want to say the problem, but one of the things that we had sort of seen when we did our discovery sessions and our talks with men, because we've done group sessions, we've done one-on-one discussions to find out really what men want to talk about and mm-hmm. how. Because not a shocker, not a lot of men love talking. This is what I'm learning.
Right.
But that was actually the key to it. It was a lot of men weren't even sure what they wanted to talk about or what it was that was bothering them or how to go about fixing it. They just knew that there was something that they had to start, but they didn't know where to go.
Right.
Which I think is what has ended up sort of being where we're at right now, is that because there are some organizations out there that are trying really hard. There's, we have seen an explosion even in the digital world with things like Calm and Headspace, which have taken the digital world with meditation, mm-hmm. not necessarily gender-based, but there's now Talkspace. Talkspace is a pairing you up with a counselor. Okay. Digitally. So you put your credit card in, you buy minutes, and then you can access a counselor 24/7. And those are great. However, again, it's about peeling back the layers. It's like, how do you know what to talk about when you don't know what to talk about? Mm-hmm. Right? And it kind of, again, speaking to your point, like, what do you even start with? Where do you even go? Right. And how do you know what is a good role model? How do you know what isn't? How do you know what you like versus what is being told versus what you're reading? Right. So where we wanted to start with is just starting with a peer-to-peer mentorship. Just finding that person. It's finding a community and saying, hey, you know, maybe I don't connect with you, but I would connect with you because you and I were alike. How did you do this? How did you navigate that? So you went through a divorce and you lost your kids in that divorce, or, you know, you lost your shirt financially in that divorce. What happened? I'm going through that now. Well, how do I navigate this so that we both come out okay? Yeah. How do I think differently? So that's where we're starting with, is that peer-to-peer platform, that mentorship platform.
So it's connecting men with other men.
Connecting men with other men. And then it's doing, we've got sort of like a 3-pronged aspect to that, because it's got community, which in turn is doing 2 things. One is it's a transfer of knowledge. Right, so many people have so much in their mind, in their head, that actually is really useful, even though they might not think it is. 2 is that it is combating loneliness. Now, loneliness is like kindling to mental illness, right? When it's scientifically, they've narrowed that down, and they realize that loneliness is a big deal when it comes to depression and anxiety and social stressors.
Very true.
So, you know, just about getting in and underneath and bringing that actual proactive approach as opposed to being the reactive approach, which there's a lot of, like I say, organizations. So a lot of the counseling and whatnot is so great when you get to that spot. Yeah. So we want to just start there. Then we want to add, and our goal is to put a platform out that people can actually come to with their product and say, I've got this. And then, because there's no silver bullet. If there was, somebody would have done it.
Right. Yeah.
So
and so many different issues.
Many different issues. I would never be so remiss as to say, oh, we've got the silver bullet, come see us, you'll be fine. It's more like, here's the platform. What do you have? What offering do you have? And then men know where to find it. So it's a click of a button so that they can go, okay, oh, I love this program. This one's for me. Right. And then you can go into that direction. So it's just a one-stop shop.
So when talking to men, and you said, you know, it's kind of hard to get men to open up sometimes. They don't want to talk until they're comfortable. Yeah. What kind of things did the men you spoke to speak about? Like, what is stressing guys out today? Is it child custody? Is it financial? Is it social interactions? Like, what is... Yeah,
a lot of those. So in so our release, which we're hoping to bring to market by the end of summer, is targeting the 30 to 55 plus, or 55, sorry, 30 to 55-year-old market, just because the market's so big. Right. So we've been sort of focusing on that demographic. So in that demographic, it is divorce is a big one. Child custody was a big one. Social impact and social environment. So how to navigate the changes when it comes to their jobs. You know, women, this is a touchy one, right? Because there's the rise of women and feminine energy, which is really great and needs to be, and there needs to be an equalizing balance. Yes. And the men we talk to are not in disagreement, but they are having a hard time like how to navigate that, because at the same time they're feeling like, okay, but I'm losing my job, or I don't know, or my job is changing, or I don't know how to. And it's not because, like, a lot of women are like, well, suck it up. Okay, but
I mean, that's traditionally what we tell men, right? Right. They're upset,
and that's not working.
Right. Yeah,
that's not working, because what men do try to do is suck it up. So they're internalizing it, but then they're like ticking time bombs because the pressure is not getting released. Right. When that goes inside, it's like a pinball machine of emotions. And now you've got men who are either going to hurt themselves or unfortunately hurt somebody else. Yeah. And, you know, 3 out of 4 suicides now are male, which is we've never seen that historically. So, or $1 trillion on the healthcare system now being spent on men. So yeah, that's most of it is the stress of everyday life, finances, family, and today's social climate. Those are the 3 real big ones, because the others, so the physical, the mental, the emotional, those are kind of spin-offs that come from them. I think deep-rooted, those guys know what it's really coming from.
Yeah. So tell us a little about your service. So it's kind of a clearinghouse for services for men. Yeah. Do I understand that correctly? Yeah. So what kind of services are going to be offered at this point? You said summertime launch.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So do you have some services lined up?
So right now, the summertime launch will just be an MVP, which is just our minimal viable product, which will be our community platform, like that messenger service. There's a couple of extra added features. One will be the fact that you can do it anonymously. So there's an anonymous toggle, because that was the one thing that we've noticed in moving forward. Like we do have groups that are circulating, and some men will contact us privately. Yeah. Because there's still stigma. Attached. So we want to make sure that was addressed. There's another couple where it's like venting options, so that you can get something off your chest without it actually going to a boss or an ex-wife and get you in trouble. But moving forward into other phases, there will be things like courses, assessments, resources, trusted advisors. So we'll run the gambit of, again, one-stop shopping. So people will be able to access, if it's something physical that you need, there will be all the physical aspects as to what you can address on there. If there's something emotional that you need, courses, assessments, resources, guides, books, podcasts, blogs, I mean, you name it, it'll be on there. Yeah.
So you mentioned you came to the realization that compared to women, there's not a lot of services for men. Right. But what made you interested in that to begin with as a woman? Do you have a relative, like a brother or a friend or something that you said, hey, somebody needs to help these guys? Yeah. Or did you just wake up and said, I'm going to help men. I'm going to help men today. I love men. Actually, I'm surrounded by incredible men, to be honest. I have an amazing father. I have an amazing husband. I have two incredible sons. I have two sons, one's 20 and one's 22. Really great global citizens. But I do worry about them. Yeah. You know, and I think, where do they go? Where do they go if they need something, or if they have to talk about something? Yeah. Because I look at that and I think, okay, so if they're really sad, do they go to their peers? And then I've asked them, and they're like, we don't really talk about that stuff, you know, and it's really because that's not really how it's set up for them. Yeah. Everybody wants to sort of appear to have this level of, I've got all my shit together. Yes, sorry. That's okay. Yeah. Totally fine. Yeah. And we all do that. That's not just men. Right. But so, yeah, there's several men in my life and they're amazing. But I've also had not so amazing experiences. You know, I'm a survivor of sexual assault. I too am part of the Me Too movement. I was day raped at 16. I didn't actually deal with it until I was in my 30s. And I, you know, after navigating kind of and going through that, I realized that I didn't want to lay all the blame on that side, because I wanted to be like, but I don't even know what that blame would look like. Yeah. Because it was awful, but what even got him to that point? Right? And, you know, I had an opportunity to go and hear Tarana Burke speak when she was in Kelowna a couple months ago, and she is the founder of Me Too. Phenomenal woman. And there was during the forum, they had questions that you could ask online, and then if your questions got voted on, it would pop up and she would answer them. And mine was the next question, and of course she ran out of time. And mine was the only one that asked about men. What is being done to address men? Because if they are the perpetrators, which they are in this particular matter, right? What's being done to educate, to teach, to redirect? Where's the safety net there? Because if we can empower all we want on this side, but if it doesn't change on this side, the imbalance is going to be catastrophic, and it's getting worse. Yeah. So, would you agree with the notion that this is a problem, sexual assault, obviously, but a lot of boys and men get stigmatized because they get lumped in?
100%.
Right? And this is a real problem. Yeah. Because most men, I'm sure you would agree, having two great sons, most men are not
100%
assaulters. Most men are not out to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
It's a minority of people, just like murderers or anything else.
I do.
It's a big problem, but it's not the entire gender.
I totally agree. But I think, again, like, that's where we run into so much trouble, is that, again, we love to, like, just swing so fast through the fences, and we love to just point, and we love to say, this is the problem. It's not. And I have seen horrific things with toxic feminism that scares the living daylights out of me. Where it's like, well, we will show them, and you are going to find out what it's been like, and you will. And I am like, I'm sorry, what? At what point does two wrongs make a right? Even if you think that it is an entire gender, which it is not. But we have an opportunity right now and right here to say, hey, we can come together as an entire race and be like, okay, we get it, that small amount of people needs to be educated. Let's treat them with the love and say, this is wrong.
Right.
And this is how we're going to show you why this is wrong. Right. But nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there for that. And I agree. There's, like, my husband, who is a 43-year-old, sorry, whatever, white male. He's like, yeah, strike, he's a white privileged male. And he says, I really feel like I can't say anything, and I can't have an opinion because it's interesting.
And on that topic, like, is it really, like, do you believe there's just criminal behavior? So it's awareness, it's holding people responsible. But, I honestly always found it a little strange when I would hear a feminist say, we have to teach boys not to rape. Because I don't think most boys are thinking that.
No. Or
that well-balanced human thinks in any way that would be okay.
Yeah.
And it's something we're going to teach them that, hey, it's not okay.
Yeah.
To beat on someone, to attack someone, to rape someone, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Is that really the case? Like, there's men walking around thinking that's okay?
Yeah.
Or they're criminals.
Yeah, I don't think that, I know I've heard that too. I don't think that is the case at all. I think what it is like, there's no denying that men are hardwired different than women, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't think any woman should teach a man not to rape in the sense of that's not how it works.
Right.
I think what we need to do is we need to give men, we need to go, again, do on a holistic level, let's address your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual state of who you are as a person. Yeah. Let's develop, let's talk about this and where you are and where you're comfortable and maybe what's missing, even maybe from a genetic standpoint. What didn't transfer? What did transfer? Was there trauma? How did that look? And then go from there to develop you to a point to where there is no feelings of ever wanting to hurt somebody.
Right.
Because in a hardwired men have more of a tendency towards violence than women, 100%. Like, it was interesting. I don't know if you watched Amy Schumer's Netflix special. So in it, Amy's very, very much a feminist.
I've seen clips of it.
Yeah. So she does a bit in there, and it's kind of about making fun of men in the sense of, she says that the number one fear for men is being ridiculed, but the number one fear for women is being raped. And so she said, or having some sort of violence committed against them. And she said, it's very interesting because she says, she of course made fun of that. She's like, oh, boo-hoo, you're going to get made fun of. Well, we're afraid of being beaten to death. But what I found really interesting was, I felt like, yeah, but you don't know the hardwiring and DNA in there that makes somebody who has been ridiculed.
Yes.
And what it does to the chemical balance of the brain, what it takes to testosterone. Testosterone is an acidic product. How it washes the brain, how it translates into the brain, and then mix that with the experiences that man has had up until that point is what turns that man into a violent man.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you can't say, I get that the outcomes are very, very different, but you can't say that one or the other is actually any less different.
Yeah.
If that makes sense?
Yeah, totally. And I take a bit of issue with Amy Schumer because while it's true that most murders are committed by men, I believe that most murder victims are actually men.
Yeah, they are.
Men,
statistically,
right?
yeah.
Most suicides are men. Most military deaths are men.
Yeah.
Most industrial accidents are men.
Yeah. But she's bringing it from her experience.
Yeah, of course.
Which is women.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
but
my problem is like we tend to like it's important to respect and appreciate the differences.
Absolutely.
Like how we're hardwired.
That's exactly right.
But to kind of stigmatize an entire gender.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Isn't
help.
fair. Yeah.
It's not going to help.
Well, I had a great meeting one time with an incredible executive director of a counseling service, and she has a whole a men's program that she runs, which is basically like it's a men's assault program. So they've assaulted somebody. So either they take her course or they go to jail. So you can imagine most of them take her course. Yeah. And she says, it's funny because going into the deep dive with them, a lot of them don't even realize what assault is.
Right.
Like, just because, again, it's just not in their...
Yeah,
they haven't been taught. It's not in their DNA. It's not, or it's just the generational thing. And I just am so... I get so frustrated when we just try to wipe everybody with the same paintbrush, On the same note, it was funny because I went to 100 Heroes Who Care. Right?
Yes, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, love it. Not this last one, but the one before. And it was actually her who won. So Roxy Van Aller from Connections Counseling. And she won with that program. But the program was for men, to put together a program for men before it becomes a problem with addiction, before it becomes a problem with mental illness, before it's about putting together a program for men. Nice. And that won over 2 children's charities, which I was like, ding. See, we know there's an issue. And it gave me so much hope.
Yeah.
Because
it's so great to see women involved in that. Because like the early days of feminism, there's a lot of men that advocated, right? So it had to be male congressmen to vote for I think it's the 19th Amendment, to allow women the right to vote, because women couldn't vote, so it had to be men that voted on it.
Exactly.
Right?
100%.
So
they
we need
advocate
the cooperation of both genders to help either or.
I think that's what we felt too. So my business partner is a woman as well, and we're both moms of boys. And that we get that question a lot, to be honest. It's like, why you guys? And my first answer is, why not? But my second answer is because we know it has to be women at this point. Because if men came forward and said, okay, well, we're just going to do this whole thing for men.
Sounds like complaining.
Exactly.
Right?
Sounds like complaining. It sounds like they're trying to just set up something for themselves, in which case the feminists would, right now you can't even be a Boy Scout without allowing girls in, right? Because that just got switched up. So I think that it has to be women at this point to say, no, we're here for you. We want to switch this up for you. We want to do this and be there for you and make this better for you.
Right.
So
you've got 2 boys who have a great mother.
Aw, thanks.
But boys in general, so your son's peers, what do you think is the biggest fear they have, biggest insecurities they have as young men today?
As that generation. I think if I were to say for my sons, it would be, well, for their peers, I think it's a direction. Like finding sort of what their purpose is, finding what they're meant to do, where they're meant to go, what's their lot in life. I find that millennials have a far bigger purpose-driven life than we ever did, which I'm grateful for. Because there's a lot more meaning, because they want to make a lot bigger social impact. But I also think that there's some pressure on that, and so I see that with that generation for sure. Purpose is a big thing, right? And when you take purpose away, and again, you mentioned earlier about older men. There's a lot more suicides with older men than there ever has been. The 60 to 70 is actually being deemed a crisis, because purpose is being, you get forced into retirement or something along the line. Purpose is being taken away. Purpose is a big deal. And I'm just like, that's the boiled down. right? There's also the financial pressures. I got to take care of my family, things like that. Yeah. But I think what they've seen now is they've seen their dads go through, and now they're hitting their 50s, and they're like maybe not super happy and weren't happy.
Yeah.
And so they're starting to be, they're a far more conscious generation.
Yeah. And you alluded to it as well, that older men generally speaking, don't feel like they can call someone and say, hey, I feel really lonely.
Yeah.
Or a little bit confused. And, I'm in my 50s. I should have everything figured out.
Yeah.
But they don't feel like they can actually talk to somebody about those emotions.
Exactly. And so the hope is that if maybe they don't say that, but maybe they can say, hey, I can help you with this.
Yeah.
In which turn, then it starts at least a conversation. It doesn't have to be a conversation about their mental health or their emotional health or their physical health, but it can be a conversation. Yeah. And a community started. Yeah. And then they can say, well, actually, yeah. My husband has for his downtime, he plays a game online. And this was going back probably about 6 months ago. And so we were in development, but we were sort of still really kind of plugging through. And he showed me, he said, there's guys in here that are talking about their suicide attempts. And this is a game, because there's a chat room in it.
Oh, okay.
And he said, because they have nowhere to go, that they were actually gotten to a point where they trusted these guys in this chat room enough that they could say, you know what, I had a really bad weekend and this is what happened. And he says, in a game. Wow. That's how, yeah. So he said, it taken however many months to get to that point. Mm-hmm. But that's when I was really I know we're on the right track. But it has to be done fast. Yeah. Faster than.
So your husband helps you with this?
He does, yeah. So, I mean, we're the backbone of the business and the platform and kind of getting all of the logistics, but he will be running the content, basically, nice. Because it has to be, we want it to be gender-based.
What do your sons think of it?
They love it.
Awesome.
They love it. They're both involved. They both, my one son's a videographer, so we've been doing actually lots of filming, doing some almost like New York, Humans of New York style filming, just talking to various men, saying, hey, if you had struggles, if you had joy, what's your biggest regret? What's your dreams? Just to start talking, getting those conversations, and we're going to be releasing some of those videos soon, which we're really excited about.
I noticed a pattern, and maybe you have too, that a lot of men who have problems, there's a lack of good male role models growing up. And I find the same with a lot of women, young women who are troubled, had difficulty with their male parents, or absent male parent, or an abusive male parent, or something. So whenever I observe, kind of troubled young women, there's a father issue. And troubled young boys, there seems to be a father issue. There's not a lot of great male role models. So if you're, let's say, back in the old days, and fathers were more stable and it was more respected as a role, but father went off to war and got killed. So that boy would have uncles and men in society that he could look up to. But today we don't quite have that. So what do you think the answer is for boys who, maybe they have suicidal thoughts, they're having trouble interacting appropriately with the opposite sex, they're depressed, whatever. Who do they turn to?
I think that is a huge issue, and I think that that's going to be one of the things that we have to start fleshing out as a society together. I think there's a lot of amazing role models out there. Yeah. They're just hard to find. Yeah. Not hard to find. They're just because they don't talk. Yeah. Because men just don't talk. They're just not as easily accessible. Right. You'll see a female role model far faster just because women love to talk more. We're let's tell you about our story, right? So again, not to necessarily keep pointing it back to what we're trying to do, but that is what we're trying to do is if we're putting up a story about this is what this guy's doing, then you can reach out and see if this is a guy that would be a guy you'd want to talk to, because everybody we're putting up, you can talk to them, you can access them.
Yeah.
There are great role models, but unfortunately, a lot of them are inaccessible. You know, like you can see incredible role models, like you said, there's some superstars that would appear to be incredible role models, whether they are or not, but, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're inaccessible to the average person right now. So yeah, we have to have that community where we just start sharing. So like if there's a man who is just a really good guy, which there are many, many, many men, just share something with that.
Make the connection.
So share, like, hey, I do you have any insight on XYZ? Yeah, man. Do this or don't do this, you know?
Or talk to Bob because he's expert.
Exactly.
My friend Bob can help you.
Exactly. Right. And that's where the path starts to grow. It's going to take a little bit of time, I think, but there's a possibility for it to be a really beautiful community. It's just, and we just have to have a platform for it to do it. So that's really where we're at.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things that helped me was podcasts and later YouTube videos. So there's certain people, certain men that, you know, can talk about their struggles. Like I know a couple of people who were like hardcore drug addicts and just completely lost, and they were able to turn their life around and start a business and raise a family and stuff like that. So they got a lot of wisdom, you know.
Love that.
And you could watch them while you're brushing your teeth, you know. Because for people who didn't have a dad or didn't have enough dad around. So my father was great, but very absent, constantly traveling. So for me, even in my late 40s, just watching a man talk to me about business and stuff like that while I'm brushing my teeth is a great thing. Kind of fills that hole. Yeah. You know, from not having my dad around as much as I wanted.
And I think that is where technology is so great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, a guy I interviewed yesterday, you know, everybody sort of is so down on technology, you know, in a lot of cases, because it's like, oh, it's ripping the entire world apart. He's like, I think we have the ability to make it really amazing.
Yeah. It's a tool.
Bring it to
It's
a tool. Right? So you're right. Like I know my kids, my oldest son, he works in at a tire recycling plant. He has podcasts in all day long.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a forever learner, he calls himself. And he's the same way. Yeah, he loves it. So I think that that's great. I do think that at some point, there has to be connections with you, because you're asked face to face, or this is my actual problem, because there's only so much of listening.
Yeah, like
generalization. Yeah. Can take you so far. Yeah, exactly. But when you have your own issue of like, hey, this is, maybe it's, I don't know, I don't know which career path to go, or I don't know if I should, you know, go into the army or not. I don't know. I mean, there's like a million different questions that somebody can ask, and they actually need somebody to go through their circumstances with them. I think that there is so much opportunity there for both sides, though. That's the to me, I think that's the biggest beauty. There's like, we have things that motivate us in our world, and sharing our story is one of the biggest ones.
Yes.
Right? Like
totally
if I've said, like, half the time I'm like, I don't know what I would talk about. You know, when somebody says, oh, do you want to do a talk? I'm like, on what? Like, I don't know. I got nothing. But then if somebody comes up to you afterwards and they're like, oh man, you know, you really touched me, because all day,
makes it worth
all week, I'm like, oh, I feel so good, you know? It makes it so worth it. So changes the trajectory for your week.
So how do people find out more?
So if they go to HEchangedit.com, we have a landing page right now. And that landing page, it gives you a little bit of an about us, gives you directions to sign up for a newsletter and access, so that we would love for people to help us build this together, right? Because at the end of the day, this is actually what men want.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for us to be like, I think you want to learn this. Maybe not. They want to, like, what do you want this to look like?
Yeah.
We really want it to be about you build that solution. We'll put the platform here for you. You build that.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us what you want on there. You tell us what you think will be a good thing for you and the people you love.
Yes.
So, just go to HEchangedit.com. We're on social media as well. There's a Facebook group called HEchangedit, Instagram at HEchangedit, and then actually have our YouTube starting up soon with our videos.
That's awesome. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, we're so excited. I'm really grateful for podcasts like this. I think that this is, I love podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody.
What are a couple of your favorites?
I do a couple women's podcasts. There's one called Second Life.
Okay.
Which is so great because it's women in middle age who restart their careers, or they'll be on a certain trajectory and then off they go.
Kids are moving out or about to move out. So.
Yeah, and in a lot of big big companies and whatnot, and then they just sort of move the other way. I listen to Oprah's Soul Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to an Ed Milet podcast called Max Out.
I love Ed Milet.
I love Ed
awesome.
Milet. Yeah.
Now he is an example of if a young person has maybe a factory job where they're allowed to have headphones.
Yes.
He's one of the guys I would totally recommend.
Me too. That's one my son. Actually, I've met him a couple times.
Really?
Which is,
Wow.
He's
super energetic guy.
phenomenal.
And you know his story how he had a new wife or fiance and he actually had his water cut off.
Yes.
And he said, you get your power cut off, you can deal with it for a few days, right? But you get your water cut off, it's really embarrassing. They had to go down and sneak into the change room at their
shower.
building.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was just terrible.
He told a story, I don't know how much time we have, but I went last year to Grant Cardone's 10X.
Yeah, he was another one that I was going to mention.
Yeah.
He was a recovering drug addict.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So Ed was there, and he told a story there about how he had a car that he had taped the bumpers on.
Right, because they were falling.
They were falling off, and then he had gotten stopped, and they thought that he was smuggling drugs. The police thought he was smuggling drugs he's like, no, it's just
because of all the duct tape and
trying to keep my car together. It was awesome. And it is. It's such a good. It's such a good example, and he does. He's one who definitely practices what he preaches.
Yes.
No, I love Ed Milet, and then I love a lot of I like Tim Ferriss because I think he's got some incredible stuff. Dave Asprey for the body whole connection.
All great.
They're all great. There's so many. I'm a bit of a junkie.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully you're a new fan of this
I
show.
will be.
So,
how can you not?
Yeah,
No, this is
we've
awesome.
had dozens of amazing people like yourself.
Thank you.
From all walks of life and making a real impact on our beautiful, amazing city.
Kelowna has incredible people, hey?
Yeah. So this is one of the most fun things that I do in my week is getting to talk to people like you and pick your brain. So I always ask questions going curious, a beginner, right? How does this work? Where did you come up with this idea?
Yeah.
And that's what the show is all about.
I love it. Yeah, Kelowna is amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And the more I dig around.
So many great people.
There's so many great people. I can't even. Yeah.
And you'll love this aspect. Okay. So you're person 5 or 6 that was born and raised here.
Yeah.
And most people are not from here.
No.
But what's interesting about this show is we ask the story, how did you get here? Right. And so many amazing people that agree with you and me, what a wonderful city this is.
Yeah.
But they're from, Toronto and Edmonton and Calgary, United States and England.
Yeah.
But they've all chosen Kelowna.
Yeah. They flock to here. Yeah.
We
incredible people.
Incredible.
We do. Yeah. I love it.
Candace, who would you like to nominate on the show?
Just one?
Well, one person nominated 7.
Oh!
Most people, it's one or 2 people.
Okay.
But it's totally up to you.
Many.
So it's someone who can agree with I Love Kelowna.
Yeah.
And someone you would like to hear from. Could be someone you know well, or someone you've never met. Just someone that if you said, oh, Luke's got that person on, I'm going to listen to that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I know who.
All right.
So there's an incredible woman, and her name is Tamara McClellan.
Okay.
Do you want a story as to why I nominated her?
Yes, please.
She is an incredible person. So she's an executive director of an organization called Her International.
Okay.
Which is a women's organization for helping women in Nepal that was getting kids out. Have you heard of her?
I gotta check,
Have you already talked to her? You might have already talked to her. She's so phenomenal.
So many, there's been, I get a bit of a mental blank sometimes, but we did talk to someone from Her International.
Might be Tamara. Might be. There's Kevin Inchcombe. He's the president.
Yes, we did. Episode. That was
Tamara?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
So we did.
I have to listen to that
awesome.
one. She is.
That's going to come up in
amazing?
a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay then.
So I'm that far behind.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so then my next. What about? Have you had Crystal Flaman on?
No.
Oh, okay.
Crystal
Flaman.
Okay.
She's a motivational speaker, but she's an incredible mentor.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Mentor for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What kind of topics does she talk about? Yeah.
She's always about personal growth. So she's a runner. She runs in like the super marathons, like hundreds and hundreds of miles and all over the world. And I think she's probably one of the most incredible people I've ever met. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace, so much for your time. It's been a great topic and a topic that I've been speaking about for over a decade.
I'm so grateful to meet you.
Me too. Likewise.
And anything you want to get involved in?
I'm gonna check out the website. That's the first thing I'm gonna do.
Excellent.
And then I will get in touch with you.
I'd love that.
So
thank you.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Luke.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Newtown Big Dreams podcast with your host, Luke Menkes, and his authentic guests. And we love our listeners and hope you subscribe now to learn more about the amazing journeys of our incredible guests who relocated to find a new town, big dreams. And remember, make your dreams big.